So, last week we had a very major milestone in our Bhakti Sastri class, and that was that we did a concluding chapter of Nectar of Devotion. So today we will start the third leg of our Bhakti Shastri course, which is Nectar of Instruction. So the two biggest books we have already finished. Now we are dealing with the two small books. Nectar of Instruction in that sense is very deceptive because it looks very small, but there's quite a lot of discussions we will have on Nectar of Instruction. In fact, today we will have discussion on the preface of Nectar of Instruction. Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction is yet another masterpiece work by Srila Rupa Goswami. So we will begin today by discussing the preface. I have taken some notes from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's series on Nectar of Instruction. So quite a bit of what we will discuss today will be what will be part of those notes that I have made, of the essential things that he is conveying. Nectar of Otherwise it will seem as if we know everything, but when we hear from a very advanced devotee, then we get much more insights than what we would otherwise get on our own reading. So we will start with the preface. So like we did in Bhagavad Gita, we will go back to that format of reading the passage. We can afford to do it here. In Nectar of Devotion we couldn't afford it, but here we can do that. We will go back to the same format. So we will start with the preface of the Nectar of Instruction. So who wants to read? Gauri Mataji, you want to read? Farangi Mataji.
The Krishna Consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision.
You lost your book because of that, so you can sit next to each other. There is no point. Yeah.
The Krishna Consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has some Rupa Raghunath Pada He Iba Akruti Kaba Kama Bhaj.
Rupa Raghunatha Pade Highway Akuti Kabe Hama Bujaba Se Yugala Kriti.
When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mode of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of 6 Goswamis: Srila Rupa, Sanatana, Bhatta, Raghunatha, Sri Jiva, Gopala Bhatta, and Das Raghunath. Sri Rupa Goswami was the leader of all Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us the Upadeshamrit to follow. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him 8 verses known as Shikshashtaka, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeshamrit so that we may become very pure Vaishnavas.
Okay. So what are the points here?
To worship, to understand the conjugal affairs of Radha and Krishna, first we have to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But before that, we have to get the mercy of 6 Goswamis. Of those 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami was the head Goswami.
That's a good point.
One is we have to follow the paramparas, we follow the Guru and his Guru and so on, by which we could understand the supreme affairs of Srimati Shri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And only by understanding the Guru's teachings and his mood when we imbibe, so will we be doing by his Parama Guru and so on, which means through that teachings we will be able to understand the Krishna's and Radha's affairs of whatever.
In order to understand the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we need to, the option is to understand the mood and follow the footsteps of 6 Goswamis. And the importance of why we should understand the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is
Haribol, I can't concentrate.
because he came in the mood of Srimati Radharani, who was the topmost devotee.
So can you repeat? Sorry, I just completely lost my question.
The reason to understand the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is because he was the topmost, he was coming in the top mood of the topmost devotees, Srimati Radharani. And then you wonder what was the real mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in order to understand the only way is to follow the footsteps, and that they mention again here that only 8 instructions were left by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the written form as such. So rest of the instructions are given by the 6 Goswamis and Rupa Goswami gave this.
Good point. Anything else?
In order to understand Krishna, these instructions have to be followed. That's why they are given.
Very good point.
Nectar of Devotion is called ISKCON because all the instructions given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Swamis are summarized how to practice Bhakti. But again, in the path of practice, these are the further instructions given by Krishna especially to tell us how to the do's and don'ts. So most of those points are covered in this instruction.
Mataji's are silent. No points. What does this tell you? When you study a paragraph, try to drink that paragraph. See what comes out. What are if you're asked to explain, how will you explain? Whatever you do. A new person is coming and asking, कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, क्या लिखा है? How will you explain? Okay. Yes, Madhu.
Because the main point is that Krishna Consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Rupa Goswami. So that's why we are known as Rupa members. And Srila Prabhupada also highlights that Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis.
Correct.
And these instructions are there to guide our activities to become Pure Vaishnavas. So that is why that highlights the significance of the Nectar of Instruction.
Okay. Anything else? Nectar of Instruction we are doing. Get a book. $2 or something. Oh, that's the book we are doing today. No, you don't have to give it. Bring book from next time. Class is going on. Bring book. Okay. So, Nectar of Devotion is over last week. I don't bring that book by mistake. Okay. Where is father and mother? How do I know? No chance. All right. So, where is your mother?
She has
Night shift. I was telling somebody this morning that the goal of this particular Bhakti Shastri course is not only for us to become Bhakti Shastri. Of course, it will help us in preaching, but also some of you will certainly be expected to carry on and conduct these courses in Melbourne, especially those, some of you who are inclined towards teaching, then you will be expected to. There is a severe dearth of, there aren't many people who teach these courses. In other temples it's absolutely extinct. There are many temples are there where this much focus is not there also on teaching. Yesterday I was talking to somebody where I was before. I was associated with a different temple in a different country before. I was talking to someone, and I was also sharing with them that there is a good focus on teaching and education in Melbourne. So thanks to Anirudh Prabhu's encouragement, we have a very nice system of teaching and education. So always something is going on here. There are 3 courses running concurrently in this temple, and trust me, it's not true in every other temple that you go. So we have to continue this. Obviously, after this course, if for example all of you would like to get into Bhakti Vaibhav, of course some of you have been doing Bhakti Vaibhav, but you have not started from first canto, so you have to cover up the first 2-3 cantos. You started in third canto, right? Fourth canto. Yeah, so first 3 cantos you have to cover up to be able to complete the Bhakti Vaibhav. So then when we migrate to Bhagavatam, then some of you will start you would expect that at least 2-3 from this batch will start and do the Bhakti Sastri. And from a practical point of view, initially we may even do a rotation for that batch. So every week one person covers one module of Bhakti Sastri, something like that, so that the load is not high on anyone. For me anyway, I'm doing it on my own, but in case you want such options, like Bhakti Vriksha also we have options, 2 people combining, 3 people combining. We have to work out some model. So it's important not only to understand from your own course completion point of view, but also continue the onus where you may be sitting here and then teaching the next batch. So from that point of view, we have to now start studying. If you actually do that, you will find that you are studying much more than what you are studying as a student. If you study from a teacher's lens, you will automatically find that you are studying much deeper. So it's important to attend this class. Alright, so this Nectar of Instruction book, it's a very important book as a part of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. It is also called as Sri Upadesha Amrit. Upadesh means instruction, Amrit means nectar. It's also called Sri Upadesha Amrit. Now, it is, as much as it is important from the Sri Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it is also one of the most important books even within ISKCON. One of the most important books translated by Srila Prabhupada, which is a compulsory reading for every ISKCONite. Nectar of Instruction is a compulsory reading. And also, obviously, it's very important from the point of view of the requirements of the Bhakti Shastri course. So, from 3 angles, very important, this book. Now, Srila Prabhupada starts by talking about the author of this book. The preface, in this paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is essentially trying to, what is our, if you have to choose keywords, 2 keywords from this passage, what those keywords are? Rupa, Goswami. Essentially, Prabhupada is trying to bring Rupa Goswami in focus in the preface, if you see it. So, when in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the first Gaura Purnima festival was conducted in Keturi, at that time it is mentioned that lot of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciples had attended that festival. The disciples came from 4 areas. The disciples came from Vrindavan. Disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came from Vrindavan. They came from Bengal. They came from Orissa, Puri, Orissa, and then they came from South India. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciples came from 4 different places. What are the 4 places?
Vrindavan,
So what I would,
West Bengal,
I would request someone with a reasonably good handwriting, okay, to you can rub some of that, use some of the space there, and write certain key points on the board, and then take a snapshot of that going, and along with whatever, if you want, you can circulate that to everyone. So at least you will remember the key points that we discussed in today's class. It might help in future classes. I need someone to just keep dotting. You can use this pen here. Someone, okay. What's in the middle? I can't do it. You can't write, huh?
My handwriting.
Not good handwriting. You can take a chair and sit there actually. So as and when, or you can go back and forth. So just write, key points that we are discussing. So you can rub this, just keep Nectar of Devotion, put it on top in small letters, and then start writing the main points there. There is a duster behind you. I don't know where the duster has gone.
That in the board, this side.
On the board you will find probably. No, this side. This side of the board. See if there is a duster there. All right. So it's almost like a office minutes of meeting. You'll have to capture the essence of the minutes and write those key points which were discussed. Like that. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had disciples from 4 places. What are the 4 places? Vrindavan. Just put it in your own way. You can put Lord Chaitanya in between and just put a circle around it saying Vrindavan Mathura. So we know that we have discussed that point today in the class. That will help you remember. So there's one pager. If you just meditate on that, come to the next class, that will be good enough. I know you will not have time to read the notes or see the class again. So,
South Indian.
okay, that's good enough. Use pictures wherever, or diagram, whatever. I leave it to your imagination. So, so who are the devotees from Vrindavan? Who are some of the devotees from Vrindavan? Who are the disciples? The 6 Goswamis essentially. They are the ones who attended from, who will come from Vrindavan. Yeah. Then who are the people from Bengal? Bengal means Mayapur. Bhaktivedanta Lord Nityananda and their disciples. From Puri, it was Ramananda Rai, Mahashay's descendants. And then obviously Mahaprabhu had toured South India, so he made a lot of devotees from there. Gopal Gata Goswami originally came from South India. Venkata Bhatta, his father. Like that. So there were disciples. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made disciples in all these 4 places. However, one of his most important projects was translating or writing books. One of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's vision was that scripture should be given for the future generation. So, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, he calls it as the intellectual systematization of tradition. Intellectual systematization of tradition. Okay. So essentially, giving the intellectual part of taking the philosophy and documenting it somewhere and leaving it for future generations as a roadmap. So though Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had disciples from all over these places, he essentially gave that activity to the 6 Goswamis, specifically Rupa Goswami. So that is the importance of, that is how Srila Rupa Goswami is so important in our tradition. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally chose him. Now, Sanatan Goswami was also there. Sanatan Goswami was also there. In fact, Sanatan Goswami is the elder brother, but still it is Rupa Goswami. Not to compare, both of them are our acharyas. Okay. But it is mentioned that Rupa Goswami was the one who first surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, followed by Chaitanya, Sanatana Goswami. Rupa Goswami was the first. So in that sense, he was senior in terms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciples. Like that. So even Sanatana Goswami himself told Jiva Goswami to accept Rupa Goswami as his spiritual master. So that is the Mahima of Srila Rupa Goswami, the most intimate disciple of Lord Chaitanya. Like that. Is it clear? Huh? He's okay. Only when he makes noise you have to go. Otherwise he's okay. Okay, so this was for all future generations, that responsibility was given to Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. Now, books, scriptural books are aimed at developing two things broadly. One is they are meant to give us, to increase our belief, right, which is the theory part, and also scriptures serve to give us a practical means of implementing the theory. These are two aspects of literature. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives a nice example. He says that scriptures can be compared to a map. Scriptures can be compared to a map. It can be compared to a recipe, and it can be compared to a prescription. Okay. Again, you have to catch all these words. Put that so that everyone will remember these key points. Scriptures are compared to map. Just put map, prescription, and recipe and prescription. That's good enough. Everyone will know. What does a map do? Map tells us about the existence of a material world and a spiritual world. It tells you at least what is where. It gives you that. So it comes more from the knowledge point of view. Map gives us knowledge. Map gives us a knowledge by which we can commence our journey home back to Godhead. So in that sense, he compares it to scriptures are compared to a map. Scriptures are also compared to a recipe. A recipe breaks down. Says that these are the, if you want to make something idli, this are the ingredients. It will give you the ingredients, recipe only. So it is little bit more than a map in one sense. It gives you certain details. If you want to do this, these are the ingredients you need. Like that.
Can you make a little bigger?
No, better this way, then better we can.
What Bhagavad is asking you to do is rewrite. Essentially.
Same thing I was also telling.
Can you rewrite but a little bigger?
You can. So,
Why don't you turn the board? I don't think you all can see the board, no?
We got
So,
red
probably
color.
turn it with
The
it.
dark pencil then.
Okay, now you can see.
Black is better seen.
Black is better. Is it? You can use black then. I have all colors here. I don't know whether I have black, but
He's getting all pictures.
you can use this also if you want. Alright. So a recipe also gives you the what goes into
breaks down.
what it gives a breakdown. What goes into bhakti? Like for example, the Nectar of Devotion talked about the 9 aspects of Navavida Bhakti. It's talking about. In one sense, it's giving you the recipe. But on top of that, scriptures are also sometimes prescriptive in their nature. Prescription. Doctor is not only giving you recipe. Manganese 1%, phosphorus 2%. No. He also tells you how to take that medicine in your life. 2 times a day. Take with milk. If you feel after that some loose motion is there, then stop it immediately. Wait for some time. Again take. All these things. He tells you how to practically take that medicine. So scriptures are compared to that. Because it is mentioned that a recipe in itself will not give you the taste of the end product. It will give you only knowledge of the components of the end product. It will not give the taste of the end product. Ras nahi aayega recipe mein. Taste will not come. It will only come when the prescriptive process is followed, for which there has to be a prescription. So, scriptures are compared to a map, to a recipe, and to a prescription. Prescription tells you how to apply that, how to cook our consciousness by practice in the fire of sadhana bhakti. How to cook our consciousness in the fire of sadhana bhakti. So these analogies will really help us understand the importance of nectar of instruction, because nectar of instruction is prescriptive in its nature. That's the beauty of this book. So there are 4 books which are important to next class onwards. I will write only this class, so don't worry. Because I have some serious pain in my body today, so I'm not able to move around much. That's right. Okay, so so there are 4 books that are in the scope of nectar that are in the scope of our Bhakti Sastri degree. What are the 4 books?
Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction,
Isopanisad. Okay. So Isopanisad is in one sense a preliminary book. We are going in a different order in Bhakti Shastri, but the order which Prabhupada prescribed, in one sense, Prabhupada, in the order in which he a logical order in which Prabhupada has written these books, okay, is that Isopanisad is the book which where Prabhupada has not directly mentioned Krishna's name. When Prabhupada wrote Isopanisad, his primary purpose was to, what was the purpose of Isopanisad?
Establish the position of God.
Correct. Establish that the absolute truth is a person. That is the primary goal of the book of Isopanisad. Establishing that the absolute truth is a person. So otherwise, Isopanisad is a book which is largely referred by the Mayavadi community. If you say Isavashyam, Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagata, there is no Krishna anywhere. Like that in Isopanisad. Purva Neva Karmani. There is no Krishna anywhere written also. In fact, Prabhupada has not even used the word Krishna in the book Isopanisad. So the whole goal was, in one sense, to use the to enter the Mayavadi territory and win in their own territory. Like India visiting Australia and winning against Australia in their own Melbourne cricket ground. It's almost like that. So the whole purpose of Isopanisad is to defeat the impersonal philosophy and establish that the absolute truth is a person. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to anything but with the word Krishna. Okay, he is called as Brahman in Isopanisad. He is sometimes called as Paramatma. He is called as God. So many words Prabhupada uses there, like the absolute truth, but not Krishna. So that is Isopanisad, establishing that the absolute truth is a person. Then the Bhagavad Gita tells us that that absolute truth which is a person is Krishna. That is what Bhagavad Gita does. So from Isopanisad we go to Bhagavad Gita. Who is that person is answered in Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna himself says that Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. Like that. Or Mamaiva amsha jiva loke. So many verses Lord Krishna is establishing. And even Arjuna is saying, I have heard from all the great sages like Asita, Deva and Narala. Now I am myself accepting you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So so one is there is an absolute truth is a person, then that person is none other than Lord Krishna. So that is Isopanisad and Bhagavad Gita. The Nectar of Instruction then goes on, having established that that Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, it establishes that Krishna not only as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but as Akhila Rasamrita Murti.
Of devotion.
That is Nectar of Devotion. Sorry, did I say Nectar of Instruction? Okay. Slip of tongue. Nectar of Devotion establishes that Lord Krishna not only as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it tells ultimately that the ultimate absolute truth is what? Akhila Rasamrita Murti is a reservoir of all rasas. Like that. And it elaborates on the beauty of Lord Krishna. So Isopanisad talks about the Lord is a person. Bhagavad Gita says that person who is the Supreme Personality of God is Krishna. Nectar of Devotion talks about the beauty of Lord Krishna and establishes him as the Akhila Rasamrita Murti, the enjoyer of all nectarian mellows. Like that. And Nectar of Instruction instructs us how to access that Akhila Rasamrita Murti. How to access Lord Krishna. How a person who is coming to the temple as an ordinary seeker of spirituality can eventually go and relish the highest in bhakti, which is Radha Kund. Right? So it gives you that roadmap, that process, how to do that. In a few verses, it takes a seeker from the initial stage, it is prescriptive. Okay, stage 1, you have to do this. Next, you have to do this. Next, third, this. Fourth, this. Straight away, it gives you that prescription. What to do. Like that. So, it gives us accessibility. It tells us how to practice from down here as a seeker to reach up there as a perfected devotee, as a seeker. Does it make sense? So, this is the power of the scriptures. This is the power of the Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptures. So, there is something interesting that he mentions. He says that people act usually in this world, whatever one does, whatever one practices in this world, there can be 4 reasons behind that. Whatever one does in this world, even from the point of view of, let's say, spirituality or religion, whatever one follows, if you interview people, they will fall under 4 different buckets. The first bucket is people act the way they act because of culture. People act the way they act because of influence of culture. Yet others act the way they act because of the influence of tradition. First is culture. Second is tradition. Third, people act the way they act because of their mood. And fourth, they act because the way they act because of reason. Okay. I think you have to be there full class. And make it easy on you. You can sit now for some time.
Too much notes.
Too much notes, yeah. You need not write this much. That's why you have to represent it with some pictorially. Otherwise, it's like feeding the banana and everyone putting in a little bit, at least people have to remember. Okay. So these are, people act in these 4 ways, whatever they do. How do you explain that? Culture, people who act from the point of view of culture says that everyone does it, so I do it. That is acting on the platform of सब करते हैं तो मैं भी करता हूँ. It's like that. Right? For example, in college, you ask children, why are you smoking? Everyone smokes in my college. Normal. Why are you throwing chalk at the professor? If I don't do it, people will think you are not normal. In this school at least. It's a culture in the school. Something like that. Similarly, if you say that why are you studying so hard? It's a culture in my school. Everyone is trying to, get to the top. So I am also trying. So it's called as everyone does, therefore I am doing. And there's strong influence of culture in the actions and thought processes of people. The second is tradition. Tradition is little bit more narrow. It says fine, whatever they may do in India or whatever Hindu may be doing, in our tradition we do like that. Correct? In our tradition we do like that. हमारे में ऐसा करते हैं, बिल्कुल से हमारे में ऐसा करते हैं हम लोग, दादाजी ने बोला है, हमारे में ऐसे ही होता है. People say that is called as what? Strong affiliation. So whatever you act, what is influencing your actions and thought process? Some traditions. God knows where it is coming from, but हमारे में होता है. तुम कौन हो और वो मुझे नहीं बोला, हमारे में ऐसा होता है. Just like one of my colleagues was fasting on Tuesday. Remember, I told in Canada. I asked him why you are fasting. हमारे में ऐसे ही है, Tuesday को फास्ट करते हैं. मैं बोले ये क्या है? कुछ तो ऐसा कुछ तो रीजन तो होगा. नहीं कुछ साईं बाबा नहीं, गणपति नो, हमारे में ऐसे. मैं बोला who are you? So something he said, something he mentioned which I didn't understand. But something he was doing something, he didn't know why he was doing it. But he used to automatically fast on Tuesdays. So there was no goal like that. Tradition, blindly being followed without any inquiry. So people act the way they act because of culture, because of tradition. Yet others act because of mood. Why are you doing this? Because okay, is it generally in your culture, in your country? No. Is it your tradition? No. I like it, I'm doing it. Do something because I like it. That is called as coming from a mood, individual mood. I am acting the way I am acting. And the fourth is called as reason. Why are you acting like this? Because it makes sense. That's why I am doing so. Fourth comes to fourth comes to logic. So in one sense, the first two, culture and tradition, they have a lot of sentiment. First two are colored by sentiment. Third one is by one's own preferences. And fourth one is because it's based on one's own rational thinking. But one's own rational thinking, not driven by anything. One is deciding that, it makes sense to me. That's all. That's what I'm doing. For example, why do you worship Passport Baba? Because it makes sense to me. Somebody may say like that. It makes sense to that person to worship Passport Baba. Right? But is worshipping Passport Baba prescribed in the scriptures? No. Does it make sense to you? Yeah, it makes sense to me. I am very clear. I want to go to US. I have seen statistics. Out of 10 people, 8 out of them have got passport and visa, H1B, to the US. Therefore, I am going to go to the temple and put my passport also under the tree and put limbu and banana to passport Baba. It makes sense. I am increasing my probability. So there is a logic behind that. It makes sense. I am not doing out of sentiment. I am just going by probability. That's all. 8 out of 10 gone there. So I have 80% chance I get it. So something. The essential point is, scriptures are not involved in any manner whatsoever in driving these actions. Scriptures are not involved in any manner whatsoever in driving these actions. Harsha Prabhu, you can sit here now. उधर है ना, एक बैग है उधर. Okay, does it make sense? So all these ways of thinking, any action based on these four are called as fallible. One can make mistakes. If one acts on any of these premises, one can make mistakes. And that is why it is important these scriptures are given. The Isopanisad, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction. So that is the place of scriptures. These four are compared to a moving lighthouse. A lighthouse, what it is supposed to do? Where the ships are supposed to come and take direction. If the lighthouse itself is moving, then the ship can go and bang against a rock. So these are all like a moving lighthouse. Today my mood may say something. Tomorrow my own logic may something different. Right? It is still true. It makes sense to me. But it may say, today it may make sense to you to worship one demigod. Tomorrow it may make sense to you to worship another demigod. But still it's not the absolute prescription. Yes.
Influence of culture, if somebody has got Vedic culture in their whole system, then why will it be a forgivable process in that case?
Yeah.
Can it
So, for example, in my family, I can 100% say with confidence that there was a lot of Vedic culture in my family. Because even before I came to ISKCON, in my house, we used to offer bhoga only, every day. We will offer bhoga. It was never, that we never offered. Like today morning, if you heard Kadambakaran Maharaj's lecture, Maharaj, for example, said, especially for Gujaratis, Maharaj was, because today Payal Mataji got initiated. So Maharaj was saying, you are from Gujarat. So Maharaj was saying, Gujaratis are naturally, they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one needs to tell them. But Maharaj said, only when you come to Bhakti, you will know better than any other Gujarati how to understand Krishna. So you have to also understand why a tradition is as such. And that you will understand only from the scripture. Otherwise, what will happen, after some time, the mere influence of tradition will not be enough for us, especially when we move to some other place where it's easy, there's a chance of erosion. Like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So therefore, it is always better to have an absolute reference point of authority for our actions and not fall trap to any of these four. Okay. Because all these are fallible. So amongst scriptures also, so therefore the essential point is what? That we must always refer to the scriptures for as a reference point of am I going in the right direction or not. And not allude to culture, tradition or one's own mood or one's own reason. So we must always allude to what? To the scriptures. Correct? You agree? We should not allude to any of these four, because all these are compared to which example? Moving lighthouse. So the reference point will keep on changing. So amongst scriptures also, there are two types of verses which can come. There is some which will give philosophy, and then there are some which are directly prescriptive and instructive in their nature. What is an example of a philosophical verse? Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara. One can take that and say, ठीक है भाई मैं क्या करूँ अभी? I understand dehinosmin yata dehe, but is it telling you what to do? No, it is giving you an information. Right? As the soul moves from this boyhood to youth to old age, similarly it will pass on to another at the time of death. But it's not giving any direct instruction in terms of what you should do. Okay? But a verse like Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, it is very instructive. It tells you that you must surrender. There is a clear verb there. You must surrender now. Right? It asks you, it propels you to act in a particular way, and it tells you what to do in that situation. So a verse can be philosophical or a verse can be prescriptive or instructive in its nature. Here is a book, Nectar of Instruction, where the verse, that's why it's called Nectar of Instruction, because every verse is telling us a prescription. Do this, do this, do this. So it is a most practical book. Directly given by Srila Rupa Goswami, who has no tinge of material desires. Rupa Manjari herself, who came as Rupa Goswami, is giving us these instructions. So, even if we forget all the philosophy of this world, as long as we remember the instruction, that is good enough, right? Correct? We may not be able to remember, for example, all the instructions given in the car manual. But as long as we know the instructions of driving safe, okay, don't drink, check the mirrors, whatever, where is the accelerator, brake, when to press, good enough. At least those key things to be a safe driver. You may not know everything. Right? So, that is why this book, remembering every verse of this book, becomes imperative for all of us. Remembering every single verse. We don't have to do that. We are not expected to do that for the Bhagavad Gita. By that, I am not saying that you have to by heart all these verses for the examination. If that is what you are thinking and getting scared, I am not saying that. I am saying it's prescriptive. It's better to do it from our own spiritual point of view. By that, I am not also saying that you don't have to by heart. I am not even saying that, because I don't know which verse will come in the exam. Right? So it's up to you all. So it's recommended. Just like, for example, Srila Prabhupada recommended one must remember all the verses of the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So one must remember every verse, Prabhupada said. So similarly, it's good if we know all these verses. Okay, so much for that. So we are still on the preface. So, when originally Srila Prabhupada wrote this book, Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada asked his disciples to publish this book. So Srila Prabhupada asked them, how many copies have you made? So they said some number, some 500,000, some number of copies they said. And Prabhupada was shocked. He said, why so less? So they said, Prabhupada, this book is for devotees, because they read it. What is the first verse of this? Vacho vegam, manasakroha vegam, jiva vegam. If you give it to your boss in office, what will happen? One should have control over the belly, tongue and genitals. If you give that to your boss, what do you think will happen after that? He'll say, what's wrong with you, mate? Correct? So the devotees naturally thought that this book is for devotees. So they said, Prabhupada, this is for devotees. So they have published very few books in this. So Srila Prabhupada said, I want the whole world to become devotees. So this book is for everyone. The whole world should be devotees. So publish. So in one sense, this book can be given to a neophyte also. And this book can also be given to a practicing devotee, and this book is released even by devotees who are advanced. So that is how much importance Prabhupada gave to this particular book. Now, it is further mentioned here in the preface. Srila Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis. And to guide our activities, he gave us this Nectar of Instruction. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the Sikshashtakam, Rupa Goswami gave us this book, Upadeshamrit, so that we can become pure Vaishnavas. So, Prabhupada is emphasizing that we are Rupanugas. So, our entire Krishna consciousness practices have to be under Srila Rupa Goswami's supervision, as prescribed by Rupa Anuga. Our practices are following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. So, as we mentioned before, even the Acharyas, who are the third generation Acharyas, they also gave a lot of importance to Srila Rupa Goswami. For example, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava, the senior most layer is what? The Panchatattva. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar and Srivas Pandit. The second generation is what? Second line is the six Goswamis. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami and till Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Jiva Goswami and Gopal Bhatt. All the 6 Goswamis. Who is the third layer? Narottam Das Thakur, Shamanand Pandit and Srinivas Acharya. This is the third line. So even that third generation also refers very closely to Rupa Goswami. That is why this verse mentioned here. If you read in the preface, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Haibeya Kuti Kabeha Mabujabo Seyugala Priti. So here, see the mood of Narottam Das Thakur when he is writing this. He says, when I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. So in one sense he is saying, when I am eager to understand the literature given by Rupa Goswami, he is saying, then I will be able. That's why he is saying Rupa Raghunatha Pade. He starts with Rupa Goswami. Like that. So it is very important to understand how to worship Radha and Krishna from bona fide authority. Chaitanya Prabhu and Charan Prabhu says that in this world, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are very easy to misunderstand. Not to understand, to misunderstand. It's very easy. The example is given of the banyan tree, which we studied in the Bhagavad Gita. What does the banyan tree example says? That the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Now the problem, no problem. So it's a reflection. So sometimes what happens is, because it's a reflection, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are also reflecting in a mundane manner here. So it is very easy for us to misunderstand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna as if they are the conjugal loving affairs of a mundane man and a woman. It is very easy to misunderstand. Therefore, it is important we understand this from the lips of Rupa Goswami, who is completely devoid of any sex desire. All the Goswamis were strict brahmacharis, completely devoid of, free from envy and desire to enjoy their senses, completely free from that. Pure devotees of Lord. So therefore it is important, and if they are able to relish the conjugal affairs of Radha and Krishna, that means the affairs of Radha and Krishna are not mundane of this material world. Therefore it is important to understand from them how one should reach that level of the mood of Radha Kund, that realization. Then he goes on to explain that in this world, most of the religions, if you say, and many of them are man-made religions, like that, most of these religions do not have anything called as sadhana. Many times in the so-called religions, there is no concept of sadhana. No one has any knowledge of sambandha, abhideya, prayojana, nothing. So Srila Prabhupada has given us this, through Rupa Goswami, we have received this process of doing bhakti. The process is called as sadhana, sadhana bhakti. But for our sadhana, we have no hope of going back. If someone would have told, develop love of Godhead, Bhagavan se dar, prem kar. Suppose someone was giving such an instruction, and then he goes away after that. Then you will say, abhi karum kya? ये प्रेम होगा कैसे? I don't know, right? But clearly Rupa Goswami is giving us instruction. अच्छा ठीक है, प्रेम करना चाहते हो भगवान से, ठीक है. First step, पांचो वेगम, मनस क्रोध वेगम, जो ठीक है, something very tangible for me to do. Okay, so it's instructive, prescriptive in nature. It gives you a clear step 1, step 2, step 3. Nobody will have this in this world. Even among Hindu community, India, nobody knows. Only after we came to ISKCON we knew. Agreed? Anyone knew before that? Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana? Obviously, none of us knew what to do. Some sentiments were there. It is Rupa Goswami who has clearly given us a guideline, what to do, why to do. Everything is very clear for us. He has given us a template for understanding God, in that sense. So, by following this template, the beauty of the template given by Rupa Goswami is, we can perceive a tangible transformation in our own consciousness. Agreed? Everyone agrees to this? We have all tangibly seen the impact of this process in our own lives. Right? Otherwise, we wouldn't know. Actually, in one sense, we are actually able to measure our spiritual progress also. Not in terms of the number of certificates we get or number of classes we are given. Internally we know. Correct? We know internally. We cannot say, if someone asks you, are you a pure devotee? Internally we know where we are. Right? All of us know. At least that much knowledge we have, by which we know that we are a rascal. Correct? But that also we are not sentimental in saying, oh, I am a rascal. Gira hua insan, kya karega? Not like that. We really know we are rascal. We really know. It's not sarcastically we are telling, hai, to kya? No, not like that. Really we know we are rascal. Because the template is so systematic, it gives us what we should be, where we are, and we can objectively compare. Where is your lust? Where is your greed? Where is your anger? Where is your envy? Where is your pride? Usa measure karega on a scale of 1 to 10, immediately we will know where we are. Right? How attentively you are chanting. How often do you think of Krishna in a day? How many times? When you offer bhoga, do you offer with love or do you offer in a hurry? So many things are, so we know exactly. How is your dealings with devotees? How is your relationships? Immediately we come to know. I am rascal. Please, jisse zyada mat bolna. Right? Correct? So we come to know because of the template. So, but also we know where we are and where we are today. With respect to where we were 10 years back, 15 years back, definitely we will say that yes, we have come a long, long way. Long, long way. Otherwise, God knows what we would be doing. Right? Today. Without Krishna consciousness, where we would be, we don't know. Right? So there is a tangible transformation one can experience through the process of sadhana bhakti. But for the tangible template or tangible experience, everything will just remain sentiment. Everything will remain sentiment. So this sadhana template which Rupa Goswami has given us, these instructions, they are meant to gradually uplift us from our material consciousness to a spiritual consciousness. So he has given how to progress through the different stages of the Rupa Goswami is mentioned very nicely.
Sorry, can you repeat the last statement?
How to progress in bhakti. So the template has been given very systematically. So even in Nectar of Devotion, we saw the definition of pure bhakti is what? Anya abhinashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena Krishna anusilanam. You remember what is anusilanam?
Falling in the range of
Cultivation. Right? So there is a cultivation. There is a process. There is a process of cultivation. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, third, stage 4. It's a cultivation process, gradual process. So that is given in Nectar of Instruction. How we must cultivate ourselves first. So in that sense, the first two paragraphs which Prabhupada has mentioned here, which we read, introduce the author, and Srila Prabhupada is bringing out his gratitude to Srila Rupa Goswami. Let's read further. Who wants to read? You can read till the end now. 2 more paragraphs. So what last time who read? You read, no? Who wants to read? Shashi Prabhu. जोर से पढ़िए.
Advancement in Krishna. Advancement in Krishna.
In all spiritual affairs.
In all spiritual affairs.
Please concentrate on this, sir. It's very important passage Prabhupada is writing.
In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses.
What is one's first duty? In all spiritual affairs.
Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life.
It is directly starting with a thappad, a slap, an instruction. Let's read it again. Together. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Very categorical, Prabhupada. No two ways about it. Okay, next.
Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, Sattva-Guna, by following the instruction of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. A follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. In Vrindavan, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. Go means the senses and the Swami means master. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Updeshamrita, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu with Vedanta Madhava and Lalita Madhava. But Updeshamrita constitutes the first instruction for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly, and then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna.
What are the points here?
In order to achieve your bhakti, you have to control the senses.
This whole book is just the basis. If we follow that, then that's enough for our life at least. We'll go back home back to God of the Dose, because it clearly states that this is a basic principle which we need to follow.
When we go to the mode of goodness, Krishna consciousness is very
Correct. So one must develop Sattva Guna. Very key point that is coming across. Good observation. What else?
Advancement depends on the attitude of the follower.
Very good.
It's up to us how we want to progress.
Very good. Advancement depends on the attitude of the follower. So you have to remember these key punchlines. Anything else?
We try to become perfect Goswami.
Pardon?
A follower of Krishna consciousness movement should try to become a perfect Goswami.
So we all have to try to become perfect. Prabhupada is expecting that we will become perfect Goswami. Alright. Anything else?
How to become the perfect Goswami is to follow the Upadeshamrita.
Yeah, good point. Alright. So, the first two paragraphs talked about the second two paragraphs talk about the book subject. What the book? Or subject, yeah. So, Prabhupada is directly coming to the point of controlling the mind and the why mind and sense control directly is being started. Why directly Prabhupada is directly coming to that point here? Because the soul is originally pure. It is covered with a thick layer of false ego, material intelligence and the mind. Manashashthani indriyani prakriti sthani karsati. In this world everyone is struggling because of mind. So therefore, spiritual life is nothing but an awakening ourselves to higher consciousness. That is the whole goal of spiritual life. And enabling oneself to perceive higher reality. Spiritual life is enabling ourselves to perceive higher reality. For example, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives a very good analogy. He says that when we are watching television, some intense program is going on, or some cricket match is going on, so much engrossed, we are not even aware who is sitting next to us. Why? Even the object which is next to us, we cannot perceive what's going on. Sometimes, I remember the early days, when we used to watch cricket in my house. My mother will come and bring the dinner. Nobody will ask, what is for dinner. Everyone is engrossed. Dinner, take a plate. Like that, they will take plate. Like that. Nobody will know what they are eating. So your focus is completely on the match. No one knows what is happening. Whether someone is dead or alive, the entire focus is on that match. So this is the nature of the material energy. On top of that, material energy also makes it difficult for us to focus on reality. For example, yesterday, I took Yogeshwar Govind Prabhu and me, we went out yesterday, took Jai Kishan and Aditya for a movie. So when you go to a movie, what happens in the theatre? When the movie starts, 20th Century Fox, that thing comes. And now what happens? First thing is that the lights go off. Light band. Right? Why is the light switched off?
To make you forget the reality.
To make you forget reality. Right? So the darkness is created so that you can fully focus on illusion undisturbed by reality. Alright? So it is like that. So therefore, this whole spiritual life is awakening, shaking us up to the higher realities of life. Because we are deeply in stupor in our material consciousness, struggling with the mind like that. So it's like shaking us, giving us a jolt. Another example is given that this material energy is also like a dancer. What happens when a dancer performs on the stage? Initially, ta-tai, taka-tai, something is going on, So some moves are being made. After some time, continuously, if that mode is being made, what will happen? Just like in Bhagavad Gita class, people will start gone. Correct? Correct? वो बोला क्या है कभी से यही स्टेप नाच रहे कुछ नया करो and some people will whistle कुछ नया करो यार correct so then the person will start dancing some new steps for some time and then after some time the person will realize अभी जरा continuous अभी थोड़ा क्या अभी और थोड़ा some other move I will do to keep the audience captivated like that. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says similarly the material energy also नया रंग दिखाता है पुनः चर्वितस चर्वणानाम simply chewing the same thing but giving new rus of the same sugar so you bite from here maybe you'll get different taste. What is that verse? I forgot. What is the first line of the verse? Matirna Krishna Paratas Svatova, then Grihavritana, then Adanta Gobi Vishatam Tamishram Punah Charvitas Charvanana. Simply chewing the chud, thinking that मुझे कुछ नया रस आएगा इसमें. So material life presents itself in different ways. थोड़ा देर तात है, थकत है, फिर then something else, like that. So as long as we think something is new and more innovative, exciting that will come my way in this material world, that is how material world पकड़ के रखता है गले ऐसा. Firmly holds because we think कुछ नया रस आने वाला है. Something new is going to come for me, like that. So therefore, that is why Prabhupada says lifting ourselves to higher reality, which is called as Sattva Gun. The context becomes very important. So Srila Prabhupada is therefore saying one has to lift oneself to mode of goodness, because only from that platform can you commence spiritual life, and only remaining on that platform can you sustain spiritual life. For commencing spiritual life, there is no qualification, correct? Kirata, Una, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulakasha, Abhira, Nagara, Shumba, all these. What is that? Papa. Then? Prabha Vishnava Namaha. Okay. So all these rascals can be delivered by the process of Krishna Consciousness. So there is no entry criteria. It's not like, some high school here where you have to write some written test, 6 papers and get in. Anybody can get into this process, bhakti. But the challenge is in sustaining that bhakti. Like Kadamakaran Maharaj was saying this morning in his class, same thing he was saying. He's saying it's easy to get into bhakti. Many people will get. But after some time what happens? Oh, this chanting. Maharaj, I am not getting taste for the holy name. Everyone suffers from this disease. Right? I say, Ghumate rehte hai mala. Day after the other. They're very happy when the mala gets over, 16 rounds is over. God. Like that. It's painful process. Like that. So initially exciting when you come new in bhakti. But later on, it plateaus like that. So therefore, to sustain, this is very difficult. Because we are trying to do this chanting, still remaining in the lower modes of material nature. That is the problem. Right? We are struggling to get up early. Therefore, we have rounds left even in the night. And in the night, every bead is like a boulder. It doesn't move. 4 आदमी धक्का मारेगा तो हिलता है रात को. Right? It is always like that. So therefore, this is because we are not doing this bhakti on the platform of the mode of goodness. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, I don't know whether it's in 3rd or 4th canto, somewhere it is written, bhakti itself can be done in 3 different modes. Bhakti in the mode of goodness, bhakti in the mode of passion, and bhakti in the mode of ignorance. Kapila Muni's teachings, no? Yeah. So, it is important that we sustain our bhakti in the mode of, not start, but sustain. It has to sustain. So we have to constantly be in the mode of goodness. So that point is coming out very clearly in this purport. Like that. So Prabhupada says that only when you are in the mode of goodness, then we can come to the platform of nishtha. Otherwise we'll be struggling forever on the platform of anartha nivritti. So nishtha will come only when we are doing bhakti constantly in the mode of goodness. Which means what? We have to be out of envy, anger. If we are always doing kapda with everyone, either within the family or with others, then we cannot progress to the next stage of bhakti. We will be struggling with our own problems like all the time. So one has to come to the platform of mode of goodness. Mode of goodness, one of the qualities is the shant, peaceful.
You also say bhakti is transcendental or chanting is transcendental. Then you just explained that it can be done in 3 modes as well. How do you understand your 2 statements?
Holy name is pure, but we still don't do nama prana. So it is not a characteristic of bhakti. It is the way in which we perform bhakti. Does it make sense? Simple activity. Serving prasadam, is it a component of bhakti or no? Now you can serve in 2 ways. Prabhuji, और लीजिए ना खिचड़ी करी. That way also you can serve. No, not like that. Prabhuji, quick. No? Many people do like that. When they serve, they serve कर रहे, better he doesn't serve only. क्या है ये? कुछ पुक्कड़ लोग आया उधर मुफ्त में खाने के लिए. Is it something like that? और भिखारी लोगों को भगाते हैं ना. No, like that. So people do like that. They bring that same mentality. इधर भी. So that's not the way to serve. In the temple, if we do like that, people will run away. They'll say, what is this Hare Krishna? क्या है ये? क्या समझ के आता है? हम लोग क्या ऐसे भिखारी हैं क्या खाने को आता है? We came here for darshan. आप लोगों ने बोला ऊपर प्रसाद में हम खाने को आए. ऐसा करता है. So like that. So this is called as motive. Or even for example, many times, again, we ourselves we have to examine. Sometimes we may become very instructive and authoritative in our dealings with devotees. And we may be very judgmental on everyone. ये ना इसको ये ऐसे ही है, something like that we'll say, because we have some authority, because we are doing something, we fall in love with our own efforts. We say ये ऐसा है, वो वैसा है, ये वैसा है, like that. So this is not mode of goodness. Definitely, is it mode of goodness? Common sense tells this is not mode of goodness. This is called a mode of passion, where you think I am the leader, I am the coordinator. मैं 4 दिन से सोया नहीं है, मैं इतना कर रहा हूँ, तुम ऐसा करता है, वैसा करता है. This is called as mode of passion. Mode of goodness is completely different. So we are doing devotional service only, no doubt. It's giving benefit. Nobody will say, क्या भक्ति नहीं कर रहा है? इतना दिन से इधर मर रहा हूँ मैं, like that. But what is our consciousness? While doing bhakti, what is our consciousness? It's like that. Like one day, the devotee is not here in Melbourne, but I remember one day, they had, he was doing yajna, okay, he is not here in Melbourne again, I'm saying, he left long back, but suddenly he became very offensive, Brahmana only, and very knowledgeable, because I have attended some of, classes in a home program with a devotee, but somehow towards the later, when we saw him last, before he left Melbourne temple, he was very, very aggressive on devotees, very aggressive, very insulting, even with the children he was very, very verbally abusive, like, he finally left. But very knowledgeable in Krishna consciousness. Now, doing yajna is an activity in bhakti only. Inside Hare Krishna temple, Om Ajnana Timirandasya, you are doing all that. It's good. But then how is you are dealing with devotees? It shows that we are performing devotional life in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of passion. Like that. Even our offering bhoga. There are way of offering bhoga, no? We can just do like that. Keep the prasadam tray, uncover it, put tulsi nicely, put this thing, do achamanam, Om Keshavaya Namah. Om. Do we do like that? What do we do? Om Keshavaya Namah. Namo Om Vishwadaya Krishna Vishnu Vishwadaya Namo Om Vishwadaya Namo Mahadana Krishna Namo. Okay. And then immediately, hey, चल चालू कर पैरेलल नरसिंह कोर्ट को बोले बोला है पहला घंटी बजाए तो खा सकते हैं then we quote some rule also on top of that, right, which is fine. So you have complied with the requirements of Krishna Bhakti. Dhai has complied with the prohibition, but there is bhakti here, there is only compliance here, there is no bhakti here, right? So bhakti is completely different. Bhakti is different. Suppose our wife serves us like that, हाँ इडली दे दिया खा के जाना, हाँ चटनी किधर है डाला ना, suppose she tells like that. That's what Krishna वैसे ही कर रहे हैं हम लोग, तुलसी डाला ना अभी, पानी भी डाला, मंत्र भी बोला, अभी क्या और क्या चाहिए, इसके खाओ फटाफट, like that. Our bhakti is actually like that. But when we give this example, when our wife will give us prasadam in this way, we'll say, आज का खाने का ही मन नहीं कर रहा है, क्यों बनाया ना खाना, ड्यूटी तो किया मैंने, खाना दिया, ऑफिस जाने का पहला खाना दिया, 7 बजे तो बोला ठीक है, और जो जाएगा बर्तन भी करूंगी उसके बाद. Suppose she talks like that. I'm not saying, but then suppose like that. Then what happens? Then he will say, मेरे को नहीं खाने का, छोड़ो होटल में खाता हूँ, right? Because there is no difference than waiter serving. हाँ क्या चाहिए साहब, मसाला होता, throw it. Okay, bill, हाँ ठीक है. So this is, so compliance is there, but there is no bhakti. In any activity which we do, there is no devotion. Even when we are dressing the deities, then there is, how we handle the deities also sometimes, it's sometimes, that racing against time. Fatafat government, you bathe, very fast like that. You pull out that. Many times, devotees have been told not to pull out, when Mahaprabhu's hair is there, in the inside when you do the bathing, then Mahaprabhu's hair has to be removed very gently. Even at home deity worship, we have to be very careful that we have to remove the, because you put that, what is that called? Blue tag. Oh, blue tag, वो निकलता नहीं है बराबर. Slowly you have to. ऐसा पकड़े खींचने का नहीं. It's just like someone plucks your hair out like this. You can imagine, no? So that's where our mood comes into play. How we do the deity worship will tell us what rascal we are. So this template will tell us. It will tell us, boss, तू अभी शांत रहना जरा. प्रेम से करो, जो भी करना है. Don't pluck out like that. Or we will, sometimes we have long, many times I remember when we are bathing Gaur Nitai, then sometimes, you inadvertently scratch the deities. Normally, if you do that to any, Lord is there, but if you put it on the skin, you'll at least have a scratch here. So then we are told, advised not to, constantly we are told, cut your nails and, be very careful when you are even bathing the Lord, because Lord is a person. But sometimes we forget. Despite all these things, then you are still thinking there is a statue and there is an idol. कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. या पानी एकदम गरम गरम. वो गरम अपने मुंह पर डालेगा तो मुंह जल जाएगा. But you not take a deity है, metal है ना. At the end of the day, we think like that. So therefore, Krishna consciousness is not about the external activities how we perform. This is bhakti only, no doubt. सब कुछ भक्ति ही है. Okay, but still devotional how we do it. Are we doing it in Shuddha Sattva? What is our mood? Because at the end of the day, we have to understand, Lord is going to only accept our mood. That person from whose pores millions of universe are getting generated, he is waiting for us or what, to give him a bath. So he is coming down to deliver us. For our sake, he is accepting this service. And we think that I am giving bath to, maine nahaya to kya hoga? Almost something like that we think. It's actually a stupid way of thinking. We don't understand who is Krishna. So our devotional life we may do devotional activities, but we may do it in a very, not in the mode of goodness. So Prabhupada is mentioning here that the Shuddha Sattva is very much important, because only when we constantly perform bhakti in Shuddha Sattva can we go to the platform of Nishtha or steadiness. Otherwise we will remain in Anartha Nivriti only forever. And to sustain ourselves in the mode of goodness, therefore the 4 regulative principles have been given, which if we do not follow strictly, we cannot be in the mode of goodness. That's why the 4 regulative principles are important to follow. Because only mode of goodness will lead to this steadiness. And then Prabhupada says, then everything will be revealed. Prabhupada writes, then everything will be revealed if we do bhakti in that way. So mode of goodness, only in the mode of goodness can we connect to the super soul. Because only when we are shant can we watch the Paramatma who is sitting right next to us. If we are too much engrossed in mode of passion in the cricket match, we will not even know baji mein kon aage baitha. Yeah, whether idli sambar was given or vada sambar was given, we wouldn't even know. We are eating, putting something in our mouth. Like this. Because the whole focus is somewhere else. We are doing the activity of eating, but our mind is not there in that activity. So similarly in bhakti, we may be doing the activities with our mind being somewhere else. Like that. So that is why Prabhupada now comes to the point, therefore in bhakti, the activity is less important in one sense, but what is more important is the attitude of the follower. So at any point in time, we have to keep on questioning, how is my attitude? Attitude is everything in Krishna consciousness. That is why sadhana, seva and sadachara. How is our attitude? How are we coming across in doing different things? How is our interaction with devotees? Like that. Our attitude. So, there is an interesting example that Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives now in this regard. He says, people see things based on their own attitude. For example, there is a saying in one of the religions. It says, I think it is probably Christianity, where a quote is given, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. What does it say? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So what is the import of this? It says somebody wants to become very pure. Because spirit is pure. Spirit always wants to, is always willing. But the inferior energy of the Lord, which is flesh, makes one weak in his spiritual pursuits. The craving for the bodily pursuits, they take us away. So that's the exact meaning of it. Now, in Russia, it was translated. Now this is explaining about attitude. How attitude, someone saying a statement can see completely different, something completely differently. So, someone translated in Russia. So in Russia, spirit is called as vodka. Okay. Yeah. And flesh is nothing but meat. So it translated into meat. So the statement, spirit is willing but flesh is weak, was translated as vodka is very strong but the meat is rotten. So that's the meaning which came out of this. So Chaitanya Prabhu says, based on how we want to interpret something, we can interpret. Even Gauranga Prabhu says in that, what is it? Saints and Swindlers, Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnu, or Sarvasya Chaham Ridhi Sannivishto. So the cha has to be made in the stove. He says. So people say tea drinking is allowed in Bhagavad Gita also. Sarvasya Chaham, sabko acha lagta hai cha. But Ridhi Sannivishto, stove mein banaya hua cha. So it depends on the attitude. The person will see whatever they want to see. Like that. So attitude of the follower must be correct. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says that even in medical field, it is very important for doctors. They say that most of the healing depends on the attitude of the patient who is being dealt with. So similarly in sadhana bhakti also, most of our purification will be based on our attitude. Srila Prabhupada gives an interesting example. He says that sometimes when the car breaks down, especially more often it happens in India. I had one ambassador car. Remember, half the time the full society will push it. Everybody, uncle, everybody, oh, dhakka maar ke shuru hota hai. Diesel mein ambassador. It will never start like that. So therefore, what happens? Now here, this is the analogy is given of other devotees helping us in our sadhana. So yes, so our attitude should be such that we must understand that we need devotee association to constantly push us. But that constant pushing will only work just like if I sit in the car, if I say, okay, all my friends, hey, chalo yaar, Ranju, Mahesh, aa jao yaar, dhakka maro yaar, and then what I'm doing, I'm putting the car in whatever, and then what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to do? Press the accelerator, but I'm pressing the brake. Oh, बेचारा devotee लोग push कर थक गया, गाड़ी आगे ही नहीं जाएगा, ignition भी on है, right? Everything has started, but I'm not giving fuel to the further, so it will die. The car will remain there only. Despite devotees pushing us, we will remain there because what we have done, we have kept our own foot on the brake. So devotees can help only that much, but much of our devotional life is dependent on us. So we have to examine our motives, we have to examine our attitude, and then only we can move forward. So the onus is on us. So Prabhupada says like that. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. Much is dependent on the attitude of the follower of Krishna consciousness. Now even as preachers, now that is a point of view of a sadhaka, but sometimes we take to preaching also. As preachers, we must be very strict with ourselves and lenient with others. Prabhupada himself was like that. For example, Prabhupada did not see, he did not say that कैसे कैसे लोग आते हैं Krishna consciousness में, LSD पीते हैं, drug लेते हैं. If Prabhupada would have said like that, who would have become devotee? If Prabhupada would have made entry criteria, only those people are allowed who are completely free from envy, जिसने दारू को छुआ तक नहीं है. I think I would have been out first of all. Krishna consciousness never come in. So we all have come, but at the same time, we all towards others, our attitude must be one of lenience, compassion, like that. Otherwise, many times we may see other devotees and we may constantly pass judgments. ये लोग ऐसा कैसा करते हैं? मुझे अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है. I think we are very perfect, right? So therefore, strict with oneself and lenient with others. So with others, we have to only see the small spiritual spark and keep fanning and encouraging them rather than ridiculing or if at all we have relationship, we can give them objective criticism, saying that okay, I am doing this to improve, but not just ridicule or criticize or look down. Sometimes it can go, we never know at what stage in life, for what criticism we have done of which devotee, Krishna gives us such a phase in our life that we regret, why did I do that at that time? Like that. So now, Prabhupada is then laying the premise for us by now coming into talking about what makes one a Goswami. What is the difference between a Goswami and a Godas? So a Goswami, we have another 2-3 minutes. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, again coming back to him, he makes an interesting comment. He says that to become a Goswami takes two things. What is the goal of a Goswami? Conquering Krishna. Conquering Krishna. in a way, with love, not conquering Krishna like Hiranyakashipu wanted. So that is the goal of pure devotees. That is the only goal of pure devotees, right? So Chaitanya Chandra gives a nice mathematical equation. He says control plus concentration will lead to conquest. Control plus concentration. Control plus concentration is equal to conquest. It will lead to conquest. So now, just one example and then we will end the class. So what is the stage 1? Stage 1 is control. Stage 1 is control. Control also means restraint. Restraining our senses with our willpower. Restraining our senses with our willpower. So the example, very beautiful example, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says that whenever we get sensual desires, sensual desire need not be only sex desire, it can be anything. Sensual desire can be the desire to overeat, that can also be or oversleep. So whenever we get sensual desires, usually he says, immediately we start thinking that I am very fallen and I am going to fall down. I have no hope. That's how we think, like that. Chaitanya Prabhu says that is not the way. One must attack this. He says that there are 3 responses when the senses agitate someone. There are 3 responses one can give. He gives a nice interesting analogy. He says, for someone it can be alarm bells. Alarm bells. That's a alarm bell, warning. Like that. What is that? When the plane reaches that, when it says a terrain, there's a noise that comes, terrain, like that. Computers are programmed in a flight, like that. So it gives you a warning that you're approaching a terrain. Like that. So alarm bells can go when the senses are demanding something, or it can also sound as welcome tunes. It can either be an alarm bell or it can be a welcome tune. For a materialist, what is it? It's a welcome tune. But for a pure devotee, it is a alarm bell. But what about someone like us who is not, definitely we will not call it as a welcome tune after spending so many years in Krishna consciousness. But we will also not be able to see that as an alarm bell. So our response will be one of, acha theek hai, abhi senses are getting, abhi kya khaun, nahi khaun. Should I overeat or should I not? Should I indulge? Should I not indulge? It's almost like that. So as sadhakas, we may adopt a wait policy. We may not take a decision, but we are thinking what to do now in this situation. So he says, so when temptations come, we feel we are fallen, but Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, fine, but we don't have to fall down. When senses tempt us, we feel we are fallen, but we don't have to fall down. That choice is always with us, that we don't have to succumb. That choice is ours. Like that. So he gives the example of the freeway. He says in India, of course, like when I was driving in Ahmedabad, I remember. I was driving suddenly and then the whole traffic stopped. So there was a bear means buffalo. Buffalo came nicely sitting on the road. In Ahmedabad you will find it normally. I don't know, in Surat also. वो बैठ जाता है वो क्या करेगा अभी किसी को बुला के फिर उसको like that, you have to move. Whereas he says in the foreign countries it's not like that. It's all freeways. Traffic keeps moving, everyone in the lane. So he says here you don't have a problem of suddenly accident that bears is coming and sitting on the road. But here you have a different problem. The major worry is here is people go to sleep, dozing. That's why if you go to Citylink also everywhere it's written. Have a nap, it can save your life and whatever. People doze. So when people doze off when they are driving, so what happens? What does Vic roads do? At the side of the divider, they give the car will start, which means you are now veering off. Like that. So he gives this beautiful example, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. He says that is how Goswamis respond. Thoda nazar hata ki the alarm bell start ringing. Says like that. So that's an alarm bell. So our consciousness should be like that. When we drift off, rather than blaming, yaar main itna sota hu, chal theek hai, side mein jaake so jata hu. So that's what we say. Our alarm bells are getting. So we usually, immediately we will say it is lack of sleep. Maybe मैं ज़्यादा सोता नहीं हूँ ना, इसीलिए नींद आ रहा है. No, our mind is always like that. So, and that we do for every other sense gratification that comes. No? Maybe I have not indulged myself, enough. So I am, chalo, let us indulge. So that's one way of responding. But for a Goswami, it acts as an alarm bell. So he says the right consciousness in saying that, instead of saying that, I will fall down, the way we think is, these temptations remind us that we are not seriously absorbed in Krishna. So we have to constantly check our absorption in Krishna consciousness. So that is the alarm bell for us. Am I getting absorbed? See, why are these thoughts coming to my mind? So I increase my absorption in Krishna rather than going in self-pity or going to shamelessness and indulging. Then we think like this. This should be the attitude. So sometimes he says we can do a misdiagnosis of our desires. We can say I am getting so many desires because I have always had lack of sense gratification in my life. Therefore, मेरे को इतना desires आ रहा है. Right? Because I have controlled my desires so much, therefore I am getting so many desires. So that is called a misdiagnosis of the problem. So he says the correct attitude of the sadhaka should be that I am getting so much of desires because my Krishna consciousness is not yet intense. There is lack of Krishna consciousness. So therefore I must become serious in my Krishna consciousness. That is why these desires are chasing me. So that is, he says, is the real difference between the attitude of a Goswami and the attitude of a Godas. Now, he concludes by saying, now this is not only a matter of willpower, and he gives the most easiest examples. Suppose loose motion ho gaya. Will somebody say, I will control with my willpower? कुछ नहीं होगा. लेके लोटा लेके भाग रहा होगा. Correct? So therefore, he says you cannot control everything simply by saying I will willpower, say I will control. Therefore, the importance of process, and that is how he introduces Nectar of Instruction, the process of doing devotional life. So what a beautiful way of presentation. So willpower and process. Willpower is not enough. Willpower backed by a very authentic process which is coming down in parampara from the purest devotees in this world. Like that. Srila Prabhupada ki. So next week we will go to the first verse with this background.